A little over 20 years ago, GM took a Chevrolet Tahoe, added more chrome, leather, and wood to it, and put a different badge on it, and gave us the Cadillac Escalade. Now, what started out as a rush effort quickly became a pretty big moneymaker for the company, with Cadillac moving nearly 25,000 Escalades here in America every year. Now, for 2021, there's an all-new version of the Escalade, and just like the previous versions of it, it's essentially still based off of the Tahoe and Yukon architecture, but now it's based off of the all-new version, which means it now has an independent rear suspension, an available diesel engine, a completely new interior, and the first time availability of their Super Cruise hands-free driving technology. So with this all-new Escalade, with its world-class interior and self-driving tech, has Cadillac once again proven that they can build a world-class luxury car? That's what we're here to find out. Now, the Cadillac Escalade has long established a name for itself for being the symbol of American luxury. So as you can see, let's start with the exterior design of this all-new 5th generation Escalade. And here's where I think Cadillac kind of played it safe here. I mean, yes, you can easily distinguish this as the new Escalade. This is an evolution, of course, of their art and science design theme, but it kind of just has the same face that they grafted on, of course, from the Cadillac XT6. The big wreath grille is, of course, front and center. Cadillac offers a choice between a luxury-oriented grille and a sport grille. This is the luxury-oriented grille because it has the bright chrome work on it. You can see it has the new wreathless crest Cadillac logo that they introduced about 5 years ago, and these new headlights. You can see full LED headlights are going to be standard. They're an LED low and high beam. The LED running strip now kind of goes along the entire lower front fascia. It's not connected to the actual headlight anymore. The previous generation, you guys know, had the slimmer vertical styling to the headlights. This is now more of a horizontal design theme. This also houses the LED turn signals, and you can see overall, I think the front fascia of this vehicle certainly looks pretty bold, although it's not quite as standoutish as, let's say, the Lincoln Navigator when that was first introduced a couple of years ago. I definitely think Cadillac played it safe. This one here in Black Raven is probably the one that you're going to see most likely come up and pick you up as an Uber Black in this color. I apologize, it's a little bit dirty. We are, of course, in the middle of winter right now. So looking at the rest of the profile, as I said before, this is based off of the all-new generation Chevy Tahoe and GMC Yukon. So the big news this year, of course, is the fact that the new Escalade is much larger, about 10 inches longer than the previous generation, and it has that independent rear suspension and an available air suspension with magno-rheological dampers. My tester, of course, has the air suspension and the dampers, which allow you to kind of raise and lower it up to 1.5 inches if you guys would like to do so. The wheels, all Escalade models come standard with 22-inch wheels. That's right, 22s are now standard on every Escalade. This one here, being the premium luxury, has kind of this satin platinum look to the wheels. You can also get a sport trim, which will black out the wheels if you guys like. Personally, I think Escalades have always really looked good with big wheels, so I'm not entirely surprised that GM decided to put the big wheels as standard for this vehicle. Now, looking at the rest of the profile, you can see it looks like the Escalades from the previous generation. It has that traditional boxy shape. This one here also has these power operated running boards, which also have this really cool light underneath. They help you get into this vehicle, and you can see every time you open the door and shut the door, the running boards will retract or pop out, you know, depending on if you're opening or closing the door. A panoramic sunroof is going to be standard if you guys go for the premium luxury trims and up. It is not available on the base model, and you can see lots of chrome on this vehicle, although Cadillac kind of is a little bit more restrained this year with the chrome. You can, of course, black it all out if you guys go for the sport package, but let me know in the comments below if you guys prefer the chrome or you prefer the look of the sport model with all of its blacked out accents. Now, at the rear of the Escalade, you can see very similar styling trend here with the very tall vertical taillights. These are full LED taillights, of course, which makes this vehicle very recognizable as an Escalade. Down here, you can see there's another silly 600 badge. You're probably wondering, what does that mean? Well, that's the torque of the engine in Newton meters. It offers 600 Newton meters of torque. In all actuality, it offers 460 pound-feet of torque. If you guys go for the diesel model, it'll say 600D to tell people that this is the diesel model. This one here is the gas model, so we have the 6.2 liter V8. Down here you can see integrated exhaust tips, which are a rectangular shape, but it's actually not connected to the pipe of the vehicle. And if you guys get the tow package on this model, it'll tow a maximum of 8,200 pounds. Now let's get into the actual cargo area. Now, first of all, Cadillac still offers you the availability to kind of open up the rear glass separately, which is nice if you guys are just trying to get something back here and you don't have to open up the entire tailgate. If you want to open up the actual tailgate itself, You can either come out here with your, your hands-free, it'll have the foot activity feature, or you can push this little button or push the Cadillac logo, and that will open up the cargo area. And this is where Cadillac, again, greatly improved the cargo space because they made this vehicle significantly larger. This is the standard version. If I had the ESV, it's around 15 inches longer, but even with the third row seat up, Cadillac owners said they wanted more space back here to put stuff. So you get 25 cubic feet of space with the third row seat up. Now, if you fold down the third row seat, which is kind of hydraulically assisted. Not entirely sure why it didn't go down there. There's something blocking it. But when you fold this down, you get around 73 cubic feet of space, which is huge. This is what you get, in most compact SUVs. And if you fold down the second row seats, Cadillac says you get around 120 cubic feet of space, which is kind of approaching that in what you get for minivans. So now stepping into the interior of the new Escalade. Yes, they played it safe with the exterior, but this is really where they spent all the money, and it all starts when you shut the door. It sounds nice and solid. And really look at this interior. I mean, yes, you guys have seen the interior of its twins from GM and from GMC and Chevrolet, but this is just in a complete other world. Like, Cadillac pulled out all the stops here, and the centerpiece, of course, is this massive curved 38-inch OLED display. It actually is made up of 3 different separate screens, and this interior just looks incredibly futuristic, so I'm really happy to see Cadillac doing something different here. Now, here's the key fob for the vehicle. They didn't really change the key at all from the other GM products. I kind of wish that they did a different key, although you do have remote start. You can also open and close the liftgate from here. Cadillac puts the start-stop button over here. And you can see the moment you start this vehicle up, it really looks incredibly futuristic in here with the tech. I mean, yes, the screens, they come to life, and they just have a resolution to it that reminds you, of course, of your living room television, because these have twice the resolution of your 4K television. At least that's what Cadillac says. And I mentioned earlier, it's comprised of 3 different screens. You have a 16.9-inch screen over here that houses your infotainment system and GPS, a 14.3-inch screen here that is for your instrument panel, of course, and then there's a 7-inch screen over here that's also a touchscreen where you can access the trip computer, you can adjust the head-up display, and you can put your map and adjust the center display as well. Now, I'll come back to the screens in just a moment because that's going to take a lot of time, but let's talk about the interior in terms of the materials. Now, previous Escalades were always just guzzied up versions of a Tahoe or a Yukon that had a little bit of more chrome, leather, and wood. And I have to say that they've definitely stepped up their game in this interior. The cut and sewn leather interior is what they introduced a few years ago, and it's very much implemented here. You have genuine stitching all through the dash of this vehicle. You have this dark finished wood, although I'm surprised it's a shiny gloss finish wood instead of a matte finish. You have some genuine aluminum trim, more leather over here, some leather, of course, going over the center stack, which is nice. And then over on the door panels, you have more leather trim, which again looks good with that silver trim, leather padding on the armrest area, and then some of the switch gear in here. This is really where I'm looking closely at the interior, and I do again see some part sharing with other Chevy products. The turn signals, of course, are Chevy products. The window switches, which all the windows are one-touch automatic up-down, they actually feel pretty high quality, but GM, what they did is they just put some chrome trim around it to dress it up. I could complain about that, but technically Toyota does it with Lexus, and Honda does it with Acura, and Nissan does it with Infiniti. Now, in terms of the steering wheel, you can see it's a powered tilt and telescoping design, although I do think that the wheel doesn't telescope out far enough for me. So try it out for yourself. I wanted the wheel to come out a little bit more, and it doesn't. I do like the new steering wheel, of course. You have a different color to the wood grain with some silver trim. You have buttons, of course, for your heated wheel, your adaptive cruise. This one here has the Super Cruise option, which was a late availability. It's going on sale in the spring of this year. You can see that from the sensor over here, or the sensor here that watches your face, and this is a little light bar here to tell you the status of the Super Cruise. We'll talk about that later in the driving scene. And then looking at the rest of this interior here, I want to talk about, of course, the elephant in the room, which are these massive screens. Now, this screen here is not a touch screen. This is the one that you can kind of change by going into this system here, where if I want, I have it on gauge setup, I can put a map here. So just like in Audis, I can put the GPS display right there in the center, which looks pretty good, although it doesn't give you like the Google Earth, what Audi gives you. And then this one here is the coolest thing, the AR camera, the Augmented Reality camera. Look at that. We'll show you guys more of that when I'm in the driving scene, but that literally shows you what the front camera is seeing right ahead of me. And if you guys have GPS up, it'll actually overlay turns and streets into that portion of the screen. Now, Mercedes also does this as well, but Mercedes puts it over here, whereas Cadillac puts it right here in front of you, which is actually a better location. Some of you may think it's a little gimmicky. It is a little gimmicky, but hey, it's really cool. Every person that sees that is going to be wowed every time they get into this vehicle. My tester also has a heads-up display, which is a little bit on the smaller side. And you can see here it's got that rear view camera mirror, which is part of the premium luxury trim level, which again makes it look pretty futuristic in here. Now, let's talk about the 16.9-inch display over here, because this is one of the largest in the industry. It's actually about the same size as you find in like a Tesla Model S, with its orientation, of course, being a little bit different. This screen itself is a touch screen. It is very quick and snappy. This is, of course, an evolution of Cadillac's Q system, but they don't call it Q anymore. It works very well. It's a lot quicker now. It has a full surround vision 360 camera, which is standard. And it, again, it gives you a full top-down view. You can even change the angles. You can go to an overhead view. You can go to a side view. So this is all very nice, and I like how Cadillac makes it standard. It even gives you, different modes. You can kind of go around the vehicle in a full 360 perimeter scan. So I think that it's a little bit slow here. Audi, BMW do a similar thing, but I think that they, did a good job on the graphics, but some of it could be a little bit faster, but that's kind of me nitpicking a little bit. You can also change the ambient lighting in this vehicle for the first time. Cadillac offers these different colors of choice, or choices of colors. The ambient lighting looks good at night, but it's not quite as elaborate from what you find from BMW, Audi, and Mercedes, but I'm glad to see Cadillac again pushing the envelope. Going to the home screen here, it does include wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. If you go to the CarPlay here, you can see the CarPlay doesn't take up the entire screen. I kind of wish it went out further here, because this looks like it takes up maybe a 9-inch portion of the screen. But again, I like how it's very clear, it's very easy to use, but there's a lot of unused real estate here that pops up if you go back to the actual Cadillac system. So again, keep that in mind. You can see there's with the GPS. It looks very, very impressive, and I'm really happy to see Cadillac completely doing a different dash and interior design and tech features over its GMC Twin, which only has up to a 10.9-inch display. Now over here you can see hard buttons, of course, are toggles for the quad zone automatic climate control. This, of course, controls your 10-speed automatic. You push this little trigger here to put into reverse, push it again and kick all the way back to go to drive, push the P button there to go to park. If you don't want to use the touchscreen, you can also use this little control wheel here, which has different shortcut buttons. You have big cup holders here, 2 USB-C ports, a wireless phone charging pad here, and then this nice padded area right here, which gives you a pretty decent sized center stack. Although I will say that the GMC and the Chevy offers a little bit more in terms of interior storage space, but again, they changed a lot for the Cadillac version to make this vehicle feel a lot different. The stereo system in my particular one is the optional 36 speakers. That's right, I said 36 speakers. It's an AKG system, which is a subdivision of Harman. It sounds incredible. I think for about $4,000, it's one of the best systems that I've heard, and with so many speakers, you would pretty much expect it to sound good. So you audiophiles out there, I highly recommend checking that option box. Above me, you can see this panoramic sunroof is optional or is standard on all the trims except for the premium luxury. It lets in a lot of light, but it doesn't go into the third row. Above here, you can see there's LED lighting in the cabin, which really makes the interior look very bright at night. And then over here, you can see there's a nice big glove box here that's damped and it's lined with felt. So overall, you can really see that Cadillac pulled out all the stops for the interior. This is a world-class interior. It's not just a nice interior, and it's gonna make all the other brands stand up and take notice because no one else is doing this curved 38-inch screen. Now getting into the second row and third row of the new Escalade, this is really where the company spent a lot of time, because remember, this is a much larger vehicle this year and you really feel it in the space. Now, these second row captain's chairs, they do slide forward and back. So with the seat all the way back, Cadillac says you get around 41 inches of legroom back here. 41 inches of legroom basically makes this as roomy as the front seats. You can see when I get back here, I mean, this is first class seating right here. This offers so much room. It's just as comfortable as sitting in the front seats. You have a massively nice open area here to get into the third row, and there's also a flat floor over here, so you can again stretch out, you can kind of cross your legs, you can enjoy all this additional foot space. My particular tester also has the rear seat entertainment package again, which kind of mimics what you get in the front in terms of the interface. You can open up the GPS, you can plug it into an HDMI port. You can also stream things here, and then you can kind of switch it between the two different screens if you like. It uses wireless headphones. So this is, of course, very nice and tablet-like, which is what people are looking for nowadays with their rear seat entertainment options. You also have more LED lighting in here. You can see there's speakers in the ceiling because there's 36 speakers in here. The one thing I am noticing, there are nice materials back here. it's stitched and whatnot. There's real metal trim, but there's no manual sunshades here. I expected to find some kind of power or manual sunshade, which would have been nice. There's some vents up here on the ceiling. You can see there's 3 level heated seats back here, but surprisingly, Cadillac doesn't offer cooled seats back here, which would have been a nice touch. When you push this out, you can see there's the cup holders, which are pretty much the same size as the front. You also have USB ports down here, USB-C ports, and 2 HDMI outlets. So the second row here with 41 inches of legroom is pretty much first class seating. Now let's hop into the third row, because that was always a problem, of course, with the previous generation Escalade. Now to get back into the third row, I can obviously get back here, and just walk through the center, but I'm gonna actually fold the seat down so I can show you guys what it looks like. Now, it almost hit me in the face, but when you pull that, you can see it gives you a huge amount of room to get back into the third row. Now, this is with the third row seat with the second row seat all the way back. So I could move this seat up a little bit to give me more space, but then you lose the 41 inches. But with it all the way back, Cadillac says you get around 35 inches of legroom back here. That is not bad. You can see here at 5'7", I'm comfortable back here, sitting back here for probably an hour or two. There's a good amount of headroom here. The seat is now up higher because that independent suspension allowed the floor to be lower. And they actually increased the legroom back here by 10 inches compared to the previous generation. So this is now one of the roomiest third rows in the segment. It has more space for me versus the last Lincoln Navigator, and of course the Lexus LX that I last tested. In terms of the materials, they are a little bit cheaper back here. It's all hard touch plastic, which is expected, but you still have 2 USB-C ports, you have LED lighting and more rear seat vents. I kind of wish the pano roof came up back here, but there is a nice padded area here where my elbow would rest on this portion. So overall, the third row is no longer a penalty box, and you can comfortably, because it's so wide, fit 3 people across back here. Now, underneath the fresh sheet metal of the all-new Escalade, you're going to find the base engine to be a carryover motor, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. This is, of course, the 6.2-liter small block pushrod V8 with direct injection that Cadillac has been using the Escalade for a few years. You can also get this engine, of course, in the Chevrolet Tahoe and the GMC Yukon. It still makes the same power this year, 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. Those are pretty healthy numbers. It practically matches the output that what you find in most of its competitors. It now gets a new transmission this year. It's paired with a 10-speed automatic, so 2 more gears versus last year's model, which will improve acceleration, which will improve fuel economy. Now, if you guys want better fuel economy, you can also go for a diesel engine option. That's the 3-liter turbo diesel straight 6 that I tested in the Suburban a couple of months ago. That makes 277 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque, so the same torque as the big V8. It still uses a 10-speed auto. All Escalades will tow a maximum of 8,200 pounds if you guys go for the tow package model. And fuel economy, that's not really the strong suit for something like this. This particular one here with 4-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive is standard, is rated to get 14 in the city, 19 on the highway. Premium is the specified fuel if you guys are going to fill this up. Now, for those of you who are wondering why didn't Cadillac innovate a little bit more here under the hood, the company did already announce that there is an all-electric version of the Escalade coming by 2025. The all-electric version, rumor has it, will use a up to 200 kilowatt-hour battery pack, and they're saying it could have 1,000 horsepower and 3 electric motors. So that's the one you may want to wait for, but that's still about 4 years away. In terms of weight, the Escalade is still a really heavy vehicle. As this one sits, it weighs a tick under 6,000 pounds. All right, so finally getting a chance to get behind the wheel of the all-new Escalade. Now, I have to say, this new generation truck platform, I've already driven it in the Tahoe and the Suburban. Haven't driven the Yukon yet as of this filming, but I'm super happy that Cadillac squeezed me into an Escalade loan at the very last minute, because I will be driving the Yukon next week, but I only have the Escalade for 2 days, so this particular one here also has the Super Cruise option, which wasn't available when this vehicle first launched back in August of last year. So obviously, because this one has the Super Cruise, we're going to try it out as we get onto the interstate here. But before we talk about the Super Cruise, I want to talk about the Escalade as a whole as it drives. Now, this one here has the 6.2-liter naturally aspirated V8. This V8 has been in production for a while now. It is practically unchanged from the previous generation Escalade model. Makes 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. What did change, however, is the 6-speed automatic, or is the 8-speed automatic. It now has a 10-speed automatic. Which the gearbox itself is really responsive, provides very quick, crisp shifts. It's also very smooth. This is a GM design transmission that was kind of co-developed with Ford. When it first came out, the transmission was a little wonky. I've noticed that they've really adjusted the programming a bit, but boy, does this transmission really let that V8 scream. You can hear the V8 quite noticeably in this vehicle. It is a loud engine, but it's a nice sounding engine. I question whether it might be too loud for, you know, luxury car applications. You know, it would have been wonderful if GM or Cadillac had put the Blackwing V8 in this vehicle. That twin turbo V8, which has already been ended in terms of production, that would have been a wonderful engine for this vehicle. So a little surprised that Cadillac didn't use it, but this V8 will move the Escalade out to 60 in around 6 seconds. It is a smidge slower than the previous generation because this new one is around 170 pounds heavier versus the previous generation. This is a big SUV at around 6,000 pounds. But nevertheless, you know, has plenty of power. And for such a big beast, she moves out really well. And if you guys want, you know, better gas mileage, you can also get the diesel. I drove the diesel in the Suburban. Was very impressed with how much torque that engine put out, which is the same as this V8. Less horsepower. It's a quieter engine, but it also kind of sounded like a school bus at times. It reminds you that it's a diesel. But that engine easily will get 25 mpg on the highway. You know, versus this car, the most that I saw with this vehicle was around 19 on the highway in my couple days that I had it on this long highway trip that I took it on. So overall, the Escalade is nice. Remember, we now have that fully independent rear suspension. This particular one here also has the optional air suspension. And I have it in sport mode right now, and I'm noticing even with the standard 22-inch wheels, it does have, you know, a firm ride, but it's not harsh by any means. It's not quite as pillowy as I expected it to be, given the Escalade's mission in life. But let's go over to touring mode here. We'll switch it over to touring mode, and we'll just kind of cruise along here in touring mode. And this vehicle is very, very quiet. Although I'm not entirely sure if it's quieter versus the Tahoe and the Suburban that I drove. I want to say yes, Cadillac would probably put more sound insulating materials in this vehicle to make it quieter, is my guess. But overall, I think that it's a really, really nice driving vehicle, especially when you combine it with the Super Cruise, when you combine it with the diesel engine. This is a kind of a vehicle that's going to just eat up highway miles and get, you know, 600 miles on a full tank if you guys go for the diesel. The V8 right now is only showing around 320 miles on a full tank, but the car only has 800 miles on it, so as it breaks in a little bit more, the gas mileage should go up. Now, in terms of comfort, the seats in this vehicle, I find them to be pretty supportive. They're plush. This is the real leather. It's not the semi-aniline, like fully upgraded high quality leather. This is the Mulan leather, or so they like to call it. So I imagine if you guys go for the Platinum or the Sport Platinum version, you'll have a little bit softer seats versus this one. This is the Premium Luxury, so it's just one trim above the regular Luxury. I also don't have the massaging seats, which you get if you go for the Platinum trim. It is not available on this Premium Luxury. I would highly recommend going for, you know, that trim, especially since this one here has a sticker price of over $100,000. You know, you might as well just go for the Premium Luxury or the Sport instead of this, you know, instead of this Premium Luxury. Go for the Platinum because, you know, you can option in a Premium Luxury to be the same price almost as a Platinum, but you're still missing a couple of features that only the Platinum model can get. Although I'm happy to see the Cadillac does offer Super Cruise for $2,500 extra on every trim except for the base Luxury version. But really, you just get a sense of security and safety in the Escalade. You sit up nice and high, and you can also raise it up a little bit by 1.5 inches if you guys put it into off-road mode with the air suspension. The ride is really nice. It's quiet. The seats are comfortable. You have plenty of power to pass people. And, you know, it's just a vehicle that's always been, you know, America's best in terms of luxury. Like, yes, the Lincoln Navigator was the first one to come out, but I have to say, after driving this new Escalade, I really think that Cadillac has raised the bar up again. The styling on the outside isn't my particular favorite. I think that the Lincoln looks a little bit more unique. Cadillac could have pushed the envelope a little more with the styling, but they really nailed it in terms of the interior. And that's what's really important for a luxury buyer. Now here's something that's really, really cool that'll impress anyone that gets into this car. Push this little button here and check this out. This is the Augmented Reality camera, which you can basically leave on all the time. And it literally projects what is in front of you into the instrument panel onto the 14-inch display over here. And some of you may actually think it's distracting. I thought it was a little distracting at first, but it kind of is right in your instrument panel here, so you can kind of see everything, but also look up and see what's happening in real life, or you can look on the display here. I mean, I wouldn't use this to drive down the road, But it's a really big wow factor, and remember, these OLED displays have twice the clarity and resolution of a 4K television, the 4K television that's in your home, most likely. So Cadillac really upped the technology level here, and I think that's what's very, very impressive about the new Escalade, is the level of technology. This curved screen here, combined with the head-up display, combined with the rear-view camera mirror, it feels like Cadillac really is flexing their muscles here. They want to be taken seriously as world-class luxury, and this is the kind of interior that's going to do it for them. So I'm really looking forward to seeing them implement this onto the rest of their products, because their sedan interiors, the CT5 and CT4, are definitely not up to the same par as the Escalade, which doesn't surprise me. This is their flagship vehicle, so Cadillac is going to put the best that they have to offer in the Escalade first. Now let's try out the Super Cruise feature. You have to basically get onto a major highway, because this uses LiDAR in addition to the radar sensors and the cameras, to drive this vehicle completely hands-free for you. So I have to wait until I see a steering wheel on the instrument panel here, which I see the steering wheel right now. This system allows for hands-free driving, but you have to be looking at the road. So once I see that gray steering wheel icon there, I push it. I push the steering wheel button here on the steering wheel, and I set the cruise control, and now you can see the car has showing a green LED light on the steering wheel, and it will truly allow me to drive hands-free on the highway. And I think this is the coolest thing about Super Cruise. I tested it first a couple years ago in the CT6. It's been a very popular option for Cadillac over the last few years, but they've been really slow trying to get this Super Cruise system out to people, out to public. And the Escalade is the second vehicle to get it. They're promising other vehicles are going to get it, but you can see here, no other system allows me to do this completely hands-free. So I can sit here and I can talk, I can twiddle my thumbs. I can't go on my phone because the system has a camera here that's watching my face, and if I'm not looking at the road, it knows. It knows when I'm not looking at the road, and it'll actually start to flash a red light here, and it'll beep at me and tell me to take back over. So the other thing you could do is it actually looks at your eyes as well. If you shut your eyes, it will actually know, and it will tell you to open your eyes and pay attention to the road. So it's a very, very unique system, but Cadillac gets around the whole lawyer thing by making sure that you're at least paying attention. You have to be ready to take control, but this allows you to free up your hands, which makes the Super Cruise system, in a class of its own for now. So I'm really happy to see Cadillac is implementing in this for $2,500. You may as well go for this. Like, Cadillac offers a driver assistance package, which gives you regular adaptive cruise control, and then you have to spec in Super Cruise on top of that for $2,500. So it's an expensive $5,000 option when you add everything, but you can see here, we're coming up here on this sharper curve. Ooh. The Volvo over here wasn't really staying in their lane, so that made me a little nervous, but she's still steering for me nicely. I mean, obviously the system can't compensate for stupidity out on the road, which we find a lot of that, sadly. But now they added a new lane change function. So to activate the lane change, I'm just going to signal right. It checks the cameras and the sensors to make sure there's nobody there, and it changes lanes for me. This is something that they didn't offer on the CT6 at first, and then it tells you it's complete, and then I can turn off the signal there. So this is not something they offered in the CT6 at first, and I was wondering when Cadillac was going to do that. Now they offer it here, as you can see, on the Escalade, and it works nice. It still doesn't have the navigate on autopilot function that Tesla has, where it'll actually take exits for you, but now it disengaged for some reason, and it vibrated my seat, and it told me to take control. It said Super Cruise was disengaging, so it's left on the adaptive cruise control and sort of the lane keep assist, but it for some reason wanted me to take back control. So let's see if it's going to flash another green steering wheel icon for me. But right now it doesn't want to give me back Super Cruise. So again, the system goes based off of what GM has already programmed into the LiDAR maps. As long as it has information on the roadway built into the system, it will allow you to use Super Cruise, but it's not perfect. It doesn't always let you do it all the time. This is my first time actually trying it on this interstate that's near my house. But again, this is an awesome option, and I'm really happy to see Cadillac offering it in this vehicle. So if you're going to look at the new Escalade, be sure to check the option box for the Super Cruise, because this is definitely, combined with all these screens in here, this feels like next generation technology. This feels like the next generation of driving, and I wasn't expecting to feel that from Cadillac, so that's a really nifty feature. Now, in terms of everything else, I mentioned the fuel economy earlier. I'm getting 19 mpg on the highway, around 15 in the city. It's got a 24-gallon gas tank, so This is not a cheap car to refill. Remember, Cadillac is going to be introducing an all-electric version of the Escalade. They're promising by 2025, and it'll be able to accommodate up to a 200 kilowatt-hour battery pack. So if you guys want a V8 or a diesel Escalade, now's the time to get it. Or if you want to wait, 4 more years for the electric version, that could also be a potential thing. But it's nice to see Cadillac really pushing the envelope here with technology, and I'm really impressed with this new Escalade, from the way it drives, from the luxury to the screens to the Super Cruise features. This feels like a world-class luxury SUV. It feels like Cadillac wants to take on the best from every other manufacturer. So once upon a time, American brand Cadillac used to be known as the standard of the world when it comes to luxury cars. Now sadly, the company hasn't held that reputation for quite a few years, and Cadillac really has been struggling over the years trying to find their place in the marketplace. So after spending the last couple of days with the all-new Escalade, remember this is their flagship SUV, I'm pretty happy to report that this vehicle seriously impressed me. It really shows you that GM, when they put their mind to it, when they put their resources to it, when they put emotion behind it, they can build a world-class vehicle, and it's all, of course, in the interior of this new Escalade. I was simply blown away with that 38-inch curved OLED screen. The exterior styling of the vehicle kind of was playing it safe, but as you guys saw from the driving portion, it rides and handles very nicely. It's very quiet on the inside. The seats are comfortable. It has plenty of power from the V8. It gets decent gas mileage for considering how big this vehicle is. And really, I find very little faults in the Escalade. I really have to look hard to find issues with the interior. I mean, yes, the interior is very nice, and there are some corporate parts bin sharing from Chevy, but really, if you look at all the other manufacturers, they're kind of the same way. So I can't really complain too much that GM did save a little bit of money there. Remember, this is sharing a platform with the Tahoe and the Yukon, but really where the Escalade for me wins is in the overall package. I mean, you'd compare this vehicle, of course, to something like a Lincoln Navigator, to the Infiniti QX80, the BMW X5 or X7, and the Mercedes-Benz GLS. The Escalade outsold all of them, with Cadillac moving nearly 25,000 units last year, and that was a combination of the new one and the old model. So people are clearly buying this thing. If you guys are looking to buy this new one now, they start at around $77,500 for the base premium trim. Now, add around $3,000 if you guys want four-wheel drive. I would recommend spending $7,000 more to get the premium luxury version. That's going to give you things like the panoramic roof, the real leather, the heated and cooled seats. This is the one that probably most people are going to go for at around $84,000 to start. My particular tester here has several options on it that pushes the price to over $104,000. $100,000 for an Escalade seems ridiculous, but GM actually told us that since this vehicle went on sale last year, nearly 50% of customers are spending over $100,000. And really, with all the premium tech luxury features that the new Escalade offers, I'm not surprised, and it's one of the best offerings that you can buy if you guys want a truck-based 3-row luxury SUV that has this kind of presence to it. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview, of course, on the 2021 Cadillac Escalade. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.